Right, so in the most recent data mining, there was already some info on Nike or Nike, depending on how you want to pronounce her. I didn't originally want to touch upon this topic simply because when I looked at it, the data mining was very unrefined. There were just two abilities, a passive and one ability rather. So I figured it wouldn't really make much sense to talk about it. But the post has been updated since. So all the information here is from Smite data mining. As always, thanks to Ferreo for allowing me to use that stuff. And if you want to read up on it, the link is down below. Also, as it's data mining, take this information with a grain of salt. All of this is subject to change, and it could always be the case that Hyris is trolling the data miners or something like that, so nothing of this is set in stone. Due to the Odyssey page that exists, we already know when Nike will come out. It will be on the 6th of December, and that's basically confirmed. We also kind of know that she's gonna be a warrior, simply because of the fact that it has been hinted before that she will very likely be one. Also, her abilities being physical and her abilities not really fitting in with any other class. They're neither abilities that would fit onto a hunter or an assassin. So if the abilities remain as they are right now, she is gonna be a warrior. With that said, let's look at her abilities. Nike's passive is called To Victory. It's a buff. It affects allies, and I would assume Nike herself as well, but that's not indicated. And it gives up to 12% bonus power starting from 8% and up to 9% movement speed starting from 5%. The way this works is explained in the description. Nike motivates her team to win the battle and has set 3 goals that the team can achieve to gain increased strength. Upon completing a goal, Nike's team gains a laurel that increases power and movement speed. This laurel can increase up to 3 times. Goal number 1, eliminate 10 guards as a team. Goal number 2, eliminate 200 minions as a team. Goal number 3, at least 2 allies are level 20. The strange thing here is that there's no indication of any kind of range. So from what it sounds like at the moment, this passive is always active the moment you have achieved one of the goals. I feel that sounds very, very, very strong, and I would assume that it may be tuned down to some kind of Amaterasu level aura, because that constant additional movement speed especially could even allow the whole team to skip items otherwise. These goals also mean that you won't have the passive from the beginning. You have to achieve one of the goals first in order to get the first stage of the passive, so in the beginning the passive basically does nothing at this point. The goals will take quite a while to complete. You won't even always complete all of them. I think the one that should be easiest to reach is killing 200 minions as a team. I'm not quite sure about the numbers. And after that, most likely reaching level 20, depending on how many kills are happening in the game. This could go easily very, very early in the game if you play your cards right, but you could also delay that depending on how well the game goes for your team. So this is kind of a snowbally passive. If you get an early lead, then this will very much accentuate your lead as well. Skill number 1 is called Sever. This is a leap with a 55 range into 20 radius. Nike leaps into the air with great velocity, then crashes down at a location, dealing damage to enemies and knocking up enemies. It scales up to 285 damage with 60% scaling. So its mana cost goes up to 75 and has an 18-second cooldown. So it's not the shortest cooldown there, it's an initiation tool, and in its essence it's probably very similar to Baku's Leap, as that has a knockup as well, so nothing very new or exciting in that ability. Ability number 2 is a little more different. Ray of Warmth is a stim, and it has 2 effects, one passive and one active. The passive is Nike gains flat damage reduction. The active is Nike gains bonus power for 8 seconds. The flat damage reduction starts up at 3 and goes up to 15. To give you a bit of a comparison here, the only other item in the game that actually allows for flat damage reduction is Mark of the Vanguard, which reduces all incoming damage taken by 5. If this actually stays the way it is, and it is not turned into percentage value, which I could imagine to be true, just maybe that's not shown at this point, or it's not decided on yet, this would really, really work well against certain dots. For example, an Ares dot that will usually have relatively low ticks, but many of them. In that case, there's hardly any damage coming through anymore, especially if you combine this with the Mark of the Vanguard and you get a flat damage reduction of 20. That's basically half of the damage of a Mystical Male Gun, for example. And that's before any kind of protections factoring in. So really good reduction here. And then you also have the power gain. The power gain is 10 on the lowest rank and goes up to 50. Now keep in mind this has an 8-second duration. I'm not sure if the passive stays active when you turn on the active, but we'll find out about that. The mana cost goes up from 30 to 50, and the cooldown starts at 22 and goes down to 18. If the cooldown actually already ticks down while the ability is active, then you will basically have this power boost pretty much half the time with a little bit of cooldown reduction. And that's quite heavy in my opinion, because you can always turn that on before you clear a wave or whatever in order to work more effectively that way. And you have a ridiculous amount of damage reduction. So that's ability 2. Ability number 3 is Steadfast. This is a line ability with a range of 45, so it is not the longest range there, but a little bit longer. Nika slams her weapon down in a vertical motion twice, dealing damage on each attack. If Nika hits the same target twice, the second hit deals 50% increased damage. Damage per swing, I would assume, is 200 plus 80% scaling. Mana cost goes up to 80, cooldown 10 seconds. The interesting thing here is how much damage it can actually do. If you hit both swings, you have a base damage of 500. That's more than the base damage of Bellona's Bludgeon before hitting an enemy god. That's quite a decent value for a warrior, especially when you factor in that she can amp up herself with extra power as well. And then you have the scaling on top of that. I'm not sure if the scaling is also amplified, but it sounds like that so far. And if it is, we're talking about a 200% scaling here. And that's pretty solid for a warrior ability, especially on a character like that that's rather defensive when it comes to the rest of the kit. The ultimate is called Sentinel of Zeus. It deals damage, it has a radius of 20. The description is as follows. Nika's war spirit awakens, transforming her into an armored sentinel for 5 seconds. After a short delay, she sends out a devastating shockwave that damages and slows enemies around her. While in this form, she is damage immune. The Sentinel itself also deals a decent amount of damage, going up to 440 base damage plus 90% scaling. Nothing crazy compared to the 3, to Steadfast, but still good damage. The slow scales up from 20% to 40%, so we're talking a heavy slow here. The slow duration is 3 seconds, also very solid slow, and the damage immunity is for 5 seconds. The mana cost goes up from 100 to 120, cooldown starts at 100 seconds and goes down to 80 seconds. Now this is the ability which sounds a little out of this world to me, a little too crazy. 5 seconds of damage immunity is just, on a warrior that's already really tanky, is just weird. I would compare this to Vamana, right, who gets healing in his ultimate, but he still kind of can be touched. If you use anti-heal and you focus him down, you will still be able to shut him down. He's not damage immune, and she gets that strong slow on top of that. She gets some kind of nearly immediate damage, a short delay. The definition is a little vague here. It seems to have a range as well, so I guess you can place yourself a little bit differently from where you are at the moment. So standing in that would probably really hurt, and I don't know if you can attack while being damage immune as well. That would make it even more crazy, but overall, this ability may be trolling, may be bloated and just needing nerfs, or may just sound stronger than it is in reality. Overall, Nika's kit has a lot to offer. It has a very strong damage reduction. It has a knockup, which is a really good CC. It has a strong slow. It has a really strong buff for your allies. And it has an ability that deals very high amounts of damage as well. So if she gets released like that, I would imagine she could easily be very, very, very strong. But as always, theoretical numbers and practical application are two very different things. For example, as her 3 is 2 instances of damages, she can be silenced out of that, she can be stunned out of that, interrupted in many ways, I think. So that, for example, works against her, and we'll have to see how all this plays out in the end. So far, I find her kit really, really interesting. I like the ideas that are implemented here. She sounds unique, which we haven't had to that extent in a while, in my opinion. So I really like it, and I hope that she turns out just as cool as she sounds at the moment. If there are any major updates, I will update this video as well. For now, I feel like this is something that will stay like this for a while until there's a huge change all of a sudden. With that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope this was interesting. See you all tomorrow. Duke Sloth, out.